It's certainly been a tough economic period for you. Perhaps you can start on the positives and the traction that you're seeing from the restructuring of the group in the current environment.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I guess from our point of view, what is most pleasing about the results is the performance of the continuing operations. Obviously, we've done quite a lot of restructuring in the group during the course of the year, and pretty much all of the loss that you mentioned is attributable to those discontinuing operations. And the continuing operations actually managed to break even for the full year, which is particularly pleasing given that they'd reported a loss for the first half. So they managed to improve their performance quite significantly, which I think is a reflection of a lot of the restructuring work that was done.
If we can focus on the clothing segment of the business, and we understand that the sector has long been plagued by significant macroeconomic issues. Are we seeing some relief on that front, particularly with the introduction of the Industrial Policy Action Plan? Do you think that is going to make a difference to overall clothing in South Africa?
Look, the recently announced production incentive, I think, is a step forward. Whether it's enough to make a significant difference to the industry, I think time will tell. But it certainly was very needed and will make a difference. But as you said, the problems in the clothing industry are long-standing, and it really goes to a lot of subsidization internationally and also a very strong rand. So for us to get any significant traction in the clothing industry, I think it's going to need quite a lot of sort of macro issues to change.
But do you believe that there is still a place for clothing in the South African value chain?
Absolutely. I think there'll always be a local industry. I think that's proven throughout the developed world. There's always an industry that remains behind. It's just at what size that industry will be. And I think you'll have far more niche players and players that can be quick and nimble to market. But, that unfortunately doesn't create mass employment. And I think that from a mass employment point of view, that's going to be more difficult without macro sort of changes.
Can you give us an update on your property exposure and how you see this underpinning the results going forward?
Through the closure of our vertical pipeline business in particular, it's left us with quite a lot of vacant property, or at least property that will be vacant once the assets have all been sold and removed. And we've looked to best realize that value in those properties. And currently we've looked at some sales, but we think that the sales prices that we've received have been under market. And we believe the best way to realize value and the best way to create a sustainable business for Seardel and a sustainable business model is to lease those properties. And that's what we're looking to do.
Stuart, I've got good news for you on the exchange rate. Dollar-rand a short while ago at 8, and you have been negatively impacted by the strong rand. If the rand starts working in your favor, will it have a significant impact on your overall operations?
Yes, it does. It's probably the single biggest factor in the operations and whether they're sustainable from a clothing perspective particularly. All our costs are rand-based, except for the raw material, a large portion of which we import. But that's really half of our costs. So as the rand weakens, half of our cost remains, static in rand terms, and the full import price of the import product moves with the weaker rand. So a weaker rand will certainly help, and we think a rand, north of 8 will be most beneficial to the group.
Let's focus on the outlook. You're in at a headline loss of 22.2 cents a share. When do you anticipate returning to profitability?
Look, it's very difficult to give forward-looking statements, I guess, but I need to reiterate that the clothing, the continuing operations of the group were profitable for the last 6 months. So I think if that's a reflection, we hope that we're through the worst of it, and we hope that the group will be more sustainable going forward and profitable going forward from here on out.